Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to our webinar this morning. Thank you so much for joining us and really appreciate you being part of our Contribution Compass journey today and learning a little bit more around this amazing tool and what it can offer you and your teams as well. So today's session, we're going to be talking about unlocking your natural energy and really focusing on what it might mean to unlock the value of your profile, unlock who you are, and get the most out of the profile that you're going to work with. So perhaps as you attend today, you're aware that you have a particular profile, you have a particular natural energy, and we would really like to focus on how we can really kind of wring out the most value possibly can out of your profile. We're going to talk about a very important question today, which is the so what question. We've done your profile, so what? And the so what question applies no matter which kind of profiling tool you might use, whether it's a Myers-Briggs type indicator or Enneagram or whatever type of tool you're using either in your practice or in your organization, or perhaps you have no tool that you use to profile and work with your team's personalities and strengths. Whatever it might be, the so what question applies. Done a profile, we've used it in recruitment, we've used it as part of a development process for one of our team members, so what? And we're going to come back to the so what question as we go along. So first up, what I'd like to do is talk a little bit around this amazing man who's staring at you from the screen. This is none other than Einstein. And I know that some of you who joined us for a webinar, I think it was in June, I spoke about Einstein, and I said it always has intrigued me that with his famous formula of E equals mc squared, that there wasn't some perhaps truth in the energy dimension of us as human beings. And so E, energy equals mass times the speed of light. And, you know, we are matter, just as the table is or the laptop is. And so I've always been intrigued by this idea of what if we could understand who we are and understand our energy by understanding E equals mc squared. So don't worry, this is not going to be a science lesson because I wouldn't have too much depth to share on the scientific view of E equals mc squared, but the concept has been really interesting for me. And so I wanted to share with you this idea that I came across a researcher who had perhaps a similar question to me, but had time and focus to go and unpack the research behind it. And what he did was he said, how could we translate E equals mc squared into the human dimension? And this came about through studying a very interesting creature called the African wild dog. And the African wild dog are absolutely one of the most amazing creatures in Africa in particular. And the reason why they're so amazing is that they have a highly developed ability to work with each other and work as a pack. They have a very high kill rate, 80 to 90% of any prey that they go after, they close. And think about this as a deal. They close 80 to 90% of their deals. Whereas the cheetah, as fast and as glamorous as it might be, has a much lower deal close rate of about 30%. And so what this researcher said is, let's look at why does the African wild dog, why are they so successful? And there's so much within, if you look up how they work as a pack, as a team, there's so much for us to learn from and understand in terms of our relationship to teams and why we're here working together in collectives as we do in our daily work life. And so what the African wild dog, what makes them really special is that there's a very strong hierarchy, but also a big respect for the hierarchy. So if you have a lead dog who's the elder in the community, is leading the hunt, but they get tired, they fall to the side and another dog takes the lead, and as soon as the main lead is recuperated, he comes back into the pack and the other one moves aside for him, and they slot right back into the hierarchy where they were before. The same when dogs are injured and removed from the pack, when they're put back into the pack, they just slot back in, with no drama, no ego, back into the places they were, and off they go. And they have this way of working in a collaborative way. So what this researcher did was he said, let's look at what are the unique characteristics of this pack, intelligence. And he said, if we looked at Einstein's equals mc squared and we had to translate it, we would talk about energy, the energy in your team, the potential energy, because the E is the potential energy in your team, and I suppose individually as well, but as a collective, is a combination of your own mastery, your own ability to have strengths and abilities to hunt, okay, or to close the deal, as it were, times by what the researcher called collective intelligence. And he defined collective intelligence as a combination of our ability to communicate and collaborate. So the two C's, C's to the power of 2. Communication times collaboration is collective intelligence. And I find this so fascinating that in teams, in companies, my observation is we either have a very individual-centric focus to development, so we think about the individual, self-mastery, self-development programs, or we think about communication, collaboration training, yet very often we don't put the two of them together and realize that unlocking the natural energy of your team requires both self-mastery, or a commitment to self-mastery, and this process of collective intelligence, where the pack works together in a very highly functional way. Thinking about this story of the wild dog, thinking about how they really leverage their individual strengths and they work together in this very communicative and collaborative way. They're always communicating and working together as a pack. And it really is such a wonderful story of this aspect of team working so well in nature, and there's so much that we can work with as we go forward. So I hope you enjoyed my wild dog story. If you have heard it before, apologies, but really an amazing creature and lots for us to learn from in this idea that we're in this hive. We're like ants and bees in a hive, and we're working together for a bigger purpose. Self-mastery and collective intelligence combined is the way that we unlock our teams. So what I wanted to do is, building on that idea, I wanted to bring in 3 perspectives. And this is setting the scene for us in the way we think about today's topic, which is unlocking the natural energy, or unlocking the value of your profile and your particular profile, your natural energy. So the 3 perspectives I want to share with you. First is that it is about you. So when we talk about the profile, you as the individual, you're the one that's doing the profile. You're going out, completing your profile. It's your individual contribution compass profile. And if you haven't done our profile yet, but you've done other profiling in your life, put that into perspective for that. You've done your profile. The contribution compass profile in particular is going to highlight for you your natural energy and where you can maximize your natural energy. And I'll talk about that in part 2 shortly. And the important thing about the picture of putting you in the center of the story is that the mastery part, if you think about that E equals mc squared, the mastery part is about you going on a journey of mastering your profile, of mastering what it means to be a catalyst, a coach, a connector, whatever your profile might be, and going on a learning journey of unpacking that. And our experience over the 10 years of using natural energy in building teams and boards and helping people grow as entrepreneurs and business leaders is that very seldom do we take the profile we have, no matter which tool you've used, and really wrestle with it and unpack it and take the write-up and really interrogate it and really work through what it really means for you and how that applies and what are you going to do now? That's the so what. So the first step is that as you go about any kind of profiling approach, and no different for the contribution compass, the value that you unlock in the profile comes not through just doing the questionnaire and getting an answer. That starts a process for sure. The value comes in then taking that and now going and applying what you've learned, developing self-mastery and self-awareness with it. And that is a journey that each one of us needs to commit to doing. This is our path, this is our process. And the way that this works is that just because we might be a catalyst or a conductor doesn't mean that we've matured our ability to use our natural energy well. That comes through a commitment to self-mastery. And we see that in our recruitment processes. You'll get someone who comes along who's the right profile, great, they're a coach, they match the requirements, they're a coach, and they come and you realize that their level of understanding of who they are as a coach and their ability to translate coachness into value is very low and has a long road to go. And as organizations, we don't necessarily have time to take people on a journey of mastery of that level. So we've got to pick what we're willing to do and not do. So you in the center of this journey, you in your self-mastery, you as the individual African wild dog in the pack, what is your process and your commitment to that learning journey? And we really, I can't tell you how often people come and say they want, they want some information about their profile, but they haven't actually even read the report. So, and reading the report once doesn't mean you're really wrestling with it, unpacking it and working with it. So that's the first step. The next dimension is your team. Maybe today as you join us, you are a member of a team, a leader of a team, a coach or a mentor that's supporting and working with teams. Teams is an absolutely critical part of unlocking the value of the contribution compass. Our view is that, like with the African wild dogs, what we have to do is increase our communication and our collaboration in order to increase our value. And when we multiply that by personal mastery of the you in the first, there's nothing we can't do. So working with the contribution compass is about saying, right, here's you, and then here's a collection of yous. Here's a collection of profiles that happen to find themselves in this particular team. When we work with teams and we profile teams, sometimes what you'll find is that there is actually quite a big imbalance in the team, or there's a kind of a dominance of natural energy that's not conducive to what the team is there to do. Or, it's needing to be brought back into harmony. Maybe it's two catalysts. There's too many catalysts in the team. I recently worked with a team where there was 4 catalysts and 1 connector. And this team was really, really struggling because of this level of imbalance at an executive level, where they literally just are always driving new things. And this poor connector who's trying to think about the customer and think about implementation and practical solutions is always feeling quite left out and struggling to manage all this catalytic activating energy. So working with teams, there's 2 things. One is a team might be a specialist team where it has a specialist type of energy. Maybe the team should be a catalyst team because it's about breaking new ground and innovating. A design team working on the next iPhone should be, catalytic. That's its nature. And perhaps it's an executive team, management team, an operational team, or a board. In that case, balance is absolutely everything. And we'll come back to this a little bit later. That working with balance and understanding that in order to make holistic, good decisions, we should be looking at the decision or looking at the issue from as many different angles as possible. And therefore, we need to be focusing on how do we balance teams across that table. The third aspect is your company. So we've started with you and your self-mastery and how you unlock the value of who you are and your natural energy. The second part is your team, how your team collaborates and communicates and unlocks the value of its natural energy. Not just because we all know our profiles, but because we're applying tools to allow us to do that. And the third part is unlocking the value of your company. Now, we won't go into this part too much today because it's quite an involved topic, but this is about understanding the natural energy of your very company itself. And this comes back to its business model. Your business model is how you create, capture, and deliver value. If the way that you create value in the marketplace and for your clients and your stakeholders is through your ability to unlock a powerful brand that allows you to accelerate a message in the market and to communicate and to create amazing stories in the market, maybe you're in advertising or you're in media, then you need to be, your business model is a champion business model. In its essence, its nature, its natural energy is the ability to create value through broadcasting a message to the world, or taking a cause into the market. And so therefore you can start thinking about the business model being a champion business model, your company, and what does that mean in terms of your leadership team? Because if your leadership team doesn't have a champion energy in it, does that mean that there's an alignment with the business model? So that's a topic for another day, but just giving you these 3 perspectives, these 3 dimensions to think about. It's you, it's your teams, and then it's the company as a whole. And we've done many sessions before. We've talked a lot more around the specific numbers and science behind accelerating financial performance by accelerating the development of strengths and accelerating the ability for a team to collaborate and communicate. And certainly there's data abounding in the universe on how much value we create by having a team that works together. All right, so now we ask the so now what question, and I want to talk about what are some of the things that you can think about as you work with your profile. If, as I mentioned earlier, if you haven't actually done our Contribution Compass profile, I really encourage you to get in touch with us today and get it done. It'll allow you to really unlock the topic and the focus for today and really understand how you can unlock your natural energy. If you haven't, it doesn't matter. Start with what you know. Take a profile in your mind that you've done before and start working with understanding yourself through that profile. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to pose you some questions that help us to start to unravel this so now what? So what and so now what? The first question I'd like you to think about is think about what brings you energy. When we are in our natural flow, and I've put things a little bit around today. Let's talk about how we apply it, and then I'll talk about some of the profile second. But what brings you energy? Think for a moment of what are the things that you are doing when you almost feel like time doesn't exist, where it's fun and there's lightness to it, and there's energy, and you feel like you're buzzing with energy. What brings you energy? Because whatever that is will be your profile. For example, if you're a catalyst, focusing on new ideas and generating and brainstorming and problem solving and crisis resolving will be things that bring you energy, will make you feel alive and crackling with life. Okay. If you're a conductor, for example, it's a totally different thing. What brings you energy is being able to create order out of chaos. You've come back from the day and you've done something that's allowed you to put the world right, that has allowed you to create sense and meaning out of numbers, that has allowed you to make something work so beautifully and slickly with no waste, like just seamless, like an orchestra, the perfect piece of music where everything plays exactly in the right tone. So we all have things that bring us energy. And if we understand that our natural energy is a key part of that, and we focus our attention on accelerating our natural energy and spending more time doing the things that bring us energy, can you start to see that latent potential energy of Einstein's theory starting to activate? Self-mastery times collaboration and communication, because we're bringing more energy and we're activating more energy because we are in our natural flow. The next question, sometimes it's the negative question that's easier for us to wrap our heads around. What makes you exhausted? Okay, so what makes you exhausted will be the things that are the antithesis of your natural energy. If you're a coach, it'll be filling out detailed reports at the end of the day. If you're a conductor, the opposite is true. It's about spending loads and loads and loads of time with people and dealing with people issues and having a huge people focus in your role. And so think about now, what are the things that make you exhausted in your role right now? What are some of the things you're noticing in your clients? For example, if you're a coach and you're working with clients and you're working with how they're interacting in teams, perhaps you're an executive coach and you're working with a CEO, what makes that CEO exhausted? What sucks the life out of him or her? And then what brings the energy back? Because if we can understand that, and we understand that the team is there to help us resolve some of those issues where we don't have to be everything to everybody. We can focus on what it is that we really do that brings us energy, that doesn't make us exhausted. So the exhaustion is the area, it's a huge clue as to where things are out of alignment. The next question we have to think about, because now we've looked internally, and for those of you who work with the emotional intelligence model, your emotional intelligence is based on a number of different factors, one of which is your relationship with self, your inner life, and then the next, one of those aspects is in how we relate to others. So maturing our internal relationship, understanding why we feel what we feel, how we think, what are things that drive us, what makes us exhausted. That's one dimension. And then another dimension is how we see that in other people, and then how we relate and actually take action to work more effectively with others around us. So the next question is about that, taking the step from the inside to the outside and saying, okay, how do we impact others? What is the way that we make an impact on others positively and negatively? And if we understand our natural energy, we can start to see how we might impact other people. Where might be our behavior that drives other people crazy or creates hurt for other people too. Because we have in our work environments, we have things that we do that cause hurt. We don't want to classify it as hurt because it's a work context, but it does impact other people. So if you think about your natural energy, how do you impact others? And is part of that impact understanding how you can help someone else be more in tune with their natural energy? So as a leader, if you're sitting here in this webinar and you are responsible for a team of people or maybe 1 or 2 direct reports, part of what you could understand is how much you negatively impact the people around you and how much you positively impact people around you based on your natural energy. For example, if you're a catalyst or a champion high activating, are you driving your team into the ground because you're pushing so fast that no one can keep up with you? If you are a high tempering, are you missing all the important clues about how your team is feeling? Are they feeling emotionally engaged with you? And what could we do to not spend a lot of time outside our natural energy, but understand enough to know that other people need other things from us? And we either have to step into that and support, or we have to find the right people to do that. The fourth question is, how do we relate to others? And this really is, as much as the previous question was about impact, how do we impact others, this is about how we communicate. One of the things we speak about in our training programs with the Contribution Compass is that as much as we want you to focus on being in your natural energy and seeking flow and all those things, it's as much about that as it is about helping others to be in their flow. And what we tend to do is we tend to communicate with everyone from our own natural energy, whether we know it or not. And this we see in how people write, for example, a position description or ad. If you're a catalyst, you'll write the ad as in catalyst words. And so if the process, if you're trying to recruit a conductor or a cultivator into your team and you're using catalyst words, you can guess that you're going to get a whole pile of catalysts and just keep on recruiting catalysts, which is what happens. We recruit ourselves. So in understanding that we by default use language and we use reference points that are meaningful to us, what tends to happen is we communicate with other people from those reference points and we forget that they may not have those same reference points. In your team, understanding the reference points of the people around you allows you to be able to communicate in a way with them that makes sense to them. So for example, if you have a conductor in your team, is understanding that actually the best way of communicating with that person is not going to be to sit down necessarily and talk about it over coffee. Because if you're a coach, that's what you want to do. You want to talk over coffee, talk it through, brainstorm by words. Verbal learning will be the thing that you reach for as a high inspiring type. Yet your conductor is not going to get the best result that way. They're going to get the best result by first being able to go through a detailed document or some detailed resource, have some time to process it. They need time. You're never going to get them to make a quick decision, and allow them to then respond and then have that conversation. So this is the right understanding. How do we, knowing that someone else has a dominant natural energy that might be different to ours, how do we engage with them in a way that is supportive and successful for their learning journey? And by adjusting the way that we think and the way that we relate. The next question is then, therefore, where can you improve your value contribution? So, for example, if you are a custodian profile, lovely grounded energy on the south of the compass, lovely custodian energy, where could you improve your profile? What are the things that are sticking points for a custodian? And what could you do to mitigate those and realize there's things that are difficult about being a custodian, but they're also gifts, like for all of us, all A profiles. What could you do to improve your value contribution? And how powerful would it be in a team to have this conversation in the performance review process and cycle about value and about contribution and how we can maximize our contribution while having a lot more fun. And I really think that as organizations, if we can focus more on, less on this whole thing about the development areas, and that's, there's the things that we have to grow up in, and the things we have to evolve on as part of teams, fine. But how can we focus on improving our value contribution? And as a profile, thinking about really maturing and developing that self-mastery and developing the capacity to create that value contribution. A powerful question to work with. And then, of course, the flip side of that, as much as we talk about maximizing contribution, we're also talking about maximizing return. And maximizing return is not just about what goes into the company or what goes into the team. It's also about looking at ways of maximizing the return into your pocket, into your personal well-being. If you're an employee of a company, that might relate to perhaps having a conversation about how you can tie some kind of bonus structure or some kind of incentive reward into you being the best catalyst or the best calibrator you can possibly be. Okay? So there are different ways. Each of the 8 profiles has a particular way that it creates value, and there are ways that for each of the profiles, there are ways that you can tie in reward that's linked to you just doing what you're good at every day, rather than tying the reward to things that you have to be out of your flow to achieve. And so if you're an employee, think about how could we do this in teams that actually there's a reward and incentive structure about you maturing your natural energy, the thing that you're talented at, rather than the thing that you have to develop the most. And then the second part of that, if you're an entrepreneur, today's session, entrepreneurs, you've got to be, your ability to add value as an entrepreneur has a direct impact on your ability to have a return. Growing your business, increasing your opportunities, increasing your flow, your profitability, your cash flow. And so the same thing applies, is understanding how you are going to make the greatest contribution to your company. And what are the people that you need around you? Who do you need around you to help accelerate the financial return into your pocket? Because we're not talking about pure theoretical concepts of just personal evolution. We're talking about growing companies. We're talking about translating companies into economic value and into tangible results that can show you the benefit of that E equals MC squared. Energy equals mastery times collaboration and communication. And so we come back to this idea of natural energy, about teams, about being on a boat together. You'll notice that we often talk about, and a lot of our branding has got this beautiful dark water. We talk about this idea of navigating the deep dark waters of human potential. That under the sea, as we go along, are always amazing things. There's obviously some sea monsters, maybe not, but there's also amazing gems to be discovered in our teams. And if we think about this idea of being on the ship together and navigating, it's a very powerful idea to work with. So as we talk about maximizing contribution, maximizing return, let's just recap on what is natural energy. Natural energy is the essence of what we do, how we respond under pressure. Where do we go to when we have to make a snap decision or have to react or have to do something? Natural energy really comes to the fore when we are under stress and huge pressure. And let's face it, in most times in business, we are, in teams, we are in a point of pressure all the time. We're literally in a pressure cooker. And so we tend to respond, and from our natural energy, every single time. What tends to happen is, unless we pay attention to natural energy and aligning natural energy to what the team needs, what the company needs, and what the individual position needs on that ship, the role and position that's in the crew, unless we pay attention to that, what you might find is you have a whole lot of catalysts all trying to decide to design a new sail and put a new sail up. Or you might have a whole lot of custodians who want to keep everything always the same. And so unless we develop this ability to understand natural energy and work together as a team and understand that it's not just about, I've done this profile and now I've got this piece of paper, I'm a catalyst, that's great. It's about now translating that into action. You can see these guys are working it, and they're working with their natural energy. There are 4 types types of natural energy. There's activating, inspiring, sustaining, and tempering. We've spent quite a bit of time in previous sessions really unpacking these 4 areas, and encourage you to pop over to our YouTube channel where we have a whole pile of past webinars available for you to browse and enjoy. When you complete your profile, depending on how you're answering your questions and how you're weighting yourself and your responses, those combine to give you 4 percentages on your report. You'll see there's a percentage. It shows you your percentage for activating, inspiring, sustaining, and tempering. And based on that spread, you land up with a particular profile. I really like to encourage that as you think about this idea of natural energy and think about the so what question, that if you haven't yet done your profile, go and do so, or contact us at info@contributioncompass.com for more information on how to get hooked up, and to take your profile and really sit with it. Really work with it. One of the things I love doing in the recruitment process is I love taking the process right at the end of the recruitment process, get your recruitee to complete their profile, and then use that as an opportunity to understand their level of self-mastery. You'll be amazed when you ask someone and say, right, you're a catalyst. What did you think when you went through the report? What are some of the key insights? And watch what happens next. The mature person is someone who has invested time in understanding their profile, can relate to examples, has a sense of humor, and sense of humor is a very important characteristic in any recruitee, in my view, have a sense of humor about, you know, where we've learned lessons and where there's been issues and where there have been opportunities, and can actually articulate what that profile means to them. Someone who doesn't have a high level of self-awareness will probably give you an answer that tells you that don't really understand themselves or can relate to how the profile ties in. So it's a very interesting way of actually using and utilizing the profile as a tool in the recruitment process. What I'd like to share with you next is to talk a little bit around what are the application areas for the contribution compass, because that's what we're talking about today. Is we're talking about, great, we've got the profile, we've done our profile, so what? Same thing applies to no matter what profile you use. We've got the profile, great, what do we do? What are some of the things that we can do with it? I spoke about team, about your self-mastery, focusing on the self, you as an individual, and really unpacking what it means for you and how it's helped you. You know, what's happened in your life that this talks to. We spoke about team and about how to build that team and how to focus a team on communication and collaboration. And we spoke a bit about the company. So there's a couple of different application techniques. These are just a subset, some that I wanted to just touch on today. One of the things that you can do is you can use the methodologies we train in our Facilitator program to set up businesses in the right way, set up teams in the right way. And we call this Skip 1 and Skip 2. It's starting a new business or a new project in flow. It allows you to say, if our first person in the team is a catalyst. Maybe you are in a incubator business where you have teams that you're putting together, or you've got a person who's come to you with a business idea and you're incubating their development. Right, so there's your catalyst. Who is the next person that incubatee should have in their team to start the flow? What's the sequence? Well, how do we put this startup team together in a way where we don't put a whole pile of catalysts together, because we're just going to get new ideas? Hey, we've got one catalyst, great. Now who's the next person? And it's a methodology of how you go and look around and bring balance to that startup team. And if you go through this process of putting the right person in place in the right sequence, it mobilizes the value of that project and that investment so much faster. If you put too many people of the same type, we just go round and round and round in the same energy. So starting a new business, a new project, or a new kind of idea, starting in flow is the right way. And if you're an entrepreneur and maybe it's just you at the moment, who's the next person you should bring in next to you to help you shift and accelerate the value that you can contribute without you having to do everything? The second application technique is what we call align profile to position. It's a bigger process. It's all about recruitment. We have dealt with recruitment quite a lot in the past. We've really unpacked a recruitment model of how you use the contribution compass in your recruitment processes. And it's not about just saying, right, I've recruited this person, I'm going to give them the job, I'm going to make an offer, and they happen to be a coach. It's actually about building into how you think about the role and the value of the role in the planning stage right up front, and saying this particular role requires a coach natural energy, a high inspiring natural energy, because of the value that that role must contribute. So right in your planning phase, having that level of thinking right up front. And we can see the value for our clients that have had put one of their perhaps the HR manager or one of their people development specialists into the facilitator program, who then works within that company, back in their own company, providing internal expertise and guidance on the whole recruitment process internally. It doesn't have to be an external thing. Develop that capacity internally to do that. And so it's aligning profile to the position, starting right at the planning phase, understanding who it is that, what is the natural energy of the position, what is the greatest value contribution it should make, then going and designing your ads and your position descriptions using language and reference points that will attract the coach, because that's what you want, then going through the recruitment process and assessing that, doing the profile in the shortlist phase, and then making a decision based on all the information you have. Obviously, you can't and shouldn't just recruit based on someone's particular profile, because that might be discriminatory. So looking at the recruitment process, there's so much we could talk about how we unlock value of profiles in not just doing it at the end of the process as part of the recruitment and then it doesn't go anywhere. The next part is looking at a method called balancing the team, where we actually look at adding a whole lot of all the profiles up in your team, looking at where is the balance in the team, for the particular roles you have, the type of team you have, what might be the particular imbalance areas. And we have a host of wonderful partners who are trained to do a team assessment process, a debrief, where we look at the team and unpack what is it that's missing and what do we need to do to shift and maximize the individuals that are in the team, as it were. So that's a team assessment process that our accredited facilitators are trained to do. And then the fourth element is growing the team consciously. And this is all about saying that, the value of unlocking the value of your profile, of any profiling methodology, is that it's not just about something you do on the front end when you recruit. It's about integrating the application of that throughout the entire life cycle of that person's journey with you, right from the planning stages when you're working out what does this role need, right through to their ongoing performance management, their development, focusing on their training, focusing on maturing and developing their profile, their mastery and their ability to contribute to communication and collaboration. And in this area, it's really about focusing and using the contribution compass as a competency development platform, because it goes from end to end. It's not just a recruitment add-on. It's an integrated application process. And this includes looking at what are the KPIs you set for your team. Having a KPI for a catalyst that's all about the success of the team and the level of employee engagement in your team is probably a contrary measure, because a catalyst delivers value in a fundamentally different way. So it's how do you focus on making sure you have the aces in your places, that your people that are in the right profiles and the right roles are growing and developing and contributing and are focusing on their value contribution through the right KPIs and through the right development practices. So those are just a few of the application techniques that we work with. I think what's really important, no matter what you do, whatever tool you use or platform is your choice, is that you integrate, that you use something that you start the journey with, of how a person arrives in your organization, how they grow and develop, and how do they relate in teams. How do your teams develop and relate as a unit? How does the company relate and develop? And how do we take that forward and integrate it from end to end? So what I'd encourage you to do is, I'd love it if you would share some questions. If you have any questions that you'd like to share with us, you're welcome to pop a question in the question box. If you have a particular question about your own profile, if you'd like to, you're more than welcome. Or there's also a little hand icon. If you'd like to, you can click on the hand icon, and that will allow you to share something. If you'd like to say something to the group, and you're more than welcome to do that. Okay, so while you're thinking about if you'd like to pop any questions through to us, I'd like to share with you that we are starting our next partner program on the 25th October, we are starting our next Facilitator training program. It's a 5-month program, all through webinar formats. So it allows you to become an accredited facilitator and partner at the end of the 5 months if you work through the process and complete it. It's a very interactive, iterative process of development, very low upfront investment to join the partner program, and high return. You know, immediately there's benefits in terms of your wholesale rate of profiles for your clients, for your company, and also, of course, the value of being able to contribute that expertise internally. If you're part of a team, coming back and providing that competency internally, or perhaps, you know, providing you with an additional platform or perspective of support in developing your ability to add value to your clients, or if you're a coach or a mentor, being able to support them with another dimension of development. It's a very incremental process, and is based on the amazing Khan Academy in the ideas of little incremental blocks of learning, which is how as adults we learn in little pieces. Get a piece, apply, get a piece, apply, and as we build up foundational learning and layers of learning on top of each other. I've spent many times sitting in 4-day training programs where it's like a mind blast, where you just are fully immersed in this learning process for 4 days, and then you come out the other end of it, and as much as you've had a lot of fun and you feel rah-rah and excited at the end, what tends to happen is you have this realization that actually my learning journey only starts now, because now I've got to unpack what was crammed into the 4 days. So we take a different approach. We take a 5-month process. We meet twice a month for 2 hours a time. Through a webinar, we have an online platform called Moodle, where we have all our resources, videos, and all kinds of things on there. And we go through this journey of developing our understanding, our deep dive into the contribution compass, its application techniques, and of course our ability to facilitate and transfer skills. So there's all kinds of interesting things we do, like recording videos of you teaching sections. There's loads of peer review. It's very interactive in the group. The process is about sharing and learning and creating a safe space to do that. We do things like how to running a debrief, doing team assessments, working with teams, and then you finish up the program being able to deliver the 1-day maximizing team contribution program. We also take the view that in today's world, you know, we would rather give you a tool that you go and use than try and control how all the material is used. So, for example, once you are accredited, and you remain accredited, and just means remaining engaged with the community on an annual basis, you have access to a whole pile of resources you can use. So, for example, there's a 1-day maximizing team contribution program, which is, you know, a significant 1-day training program of training into your team or training your clients on how to really unpack the value of the tool. Once you are accredited, all those materials are available to you. So if you want to go and run that program internally for 300 people, and you're the nominated facilitator in an organization, there is no cost to doing that. You don't have to pay any license fees or any royalties. You go and do that. All you have to do is stay a partner, stay in good standing with the community, and stay connected with us throughout the year. And so what we're rather focusing on is growing a community, a partner community that's engaged and sharing and supportive, rather than a whole complex payment system for materials. So that's our kind of philosophy, and it really is delivering great fruits in the market for our teams. It's a very dynamic approach. We always have international people in every single group, and looking forward to our next group kicking off in October. And of course, there's always ongoing development. We have our annual partner conference every year. Our first one is running in the next couple of weeks in Drakensberg. It's very exciting, which will be a 2-day jam-packed event. It is a 2-day jam-packed event where our partners convening from all over the country, and we also have some international guests as well. And then we have regular training and development for accredited partners as part of the network, and of course the engaged community to support it as well. All right, I see a question's come in. What if during the recruitment process you find a highly suitable candidate, i.e. they've done for others what you need them to do for you, only to discover they have a completely different profile to what the position needs. Oh, I know, that's so true. And you do find that sometimes you've recruited a person and there's a technical skill, yet there is a mismatch in natural energy. So what will happen invariably is there's two processes. One is that there's that awkward moment when you realize actually that's why it's a struggle. So what happens is, just because you are a particular profile doesn't mean you can't do a job or a position that's outside your natural energy. So we have to realize that this is not about putting people into boxes. We have capacity to develop skills outside of our natural energy, and we should be well-rounded human beings where we develop and augment the things that are difficult for us. And sometimes, particularly in business, you have to do a whole lot of things that are outside your flow. You just have to. So we have to realize that we do develop skills and we do develop learned behaviors that carry us forward. What will happen, though, is invariably that person will really struggle to shine, and it will feel like it's just always difficult to get the process going. Very much similar to this idea of going back to the boating analogy of how you're trying to get this boat up to plane, and you're pushing petrol, going, and it kind of never really just clips over the edge and just motors forward. And that's the idea of the natural energy. The natural energy carries and makes it so much easier to get from A to B. So what I would suggest is, when you realize there's this challenge, what's invariably going to happen is that the person's going to be very exhausted and ultimately demotivated if the majority of their time is being spent doing something that's outside their natural energy. We've seen cases where in teams what was the solution was actually rethinking the roles of the team. So we had one scenario, one case where everyone had silo type roles where people were in the wrong profiles. And what the CEO did was he took a matrix approach. So he took a strip. If you can imagine a whole lot of silos standing there, a whole lot of individuals, instead of everyone having a particular pipe, he looked across all the roles and he found things that were similar in each of the roles that were natural energy related. So tempering. What are all the tempering things these people are doing? And what he did was he stripped out the tempering activity sideways and restructured the roles. So it can be a role restructure, or it could be realizing that actually the person is just not going to work. And it's not about the skills and how awesome they are as a person. It's having the opportunity to put them in the right zone of flow and supporting them to be their best. Finding ways of having special projects or special things that are natural flow things that they can do to bring the energy back, and just working with it that way. So it's a very long-winded answer. I hope that was useful in terms of the question. Not easy once you've realized that there's a misalignment. There are lots of things it can do, and also it's something that evolves over time. It's not necessarily something that we can do a quick fix. We do have had clients where they've made dramatic changes overnight when they've realized that they had a misalignment and could do that and had a very successful outcome out of it. But most of us, we have teams, and we have to adjust and tweak and develop awareness and understanding and walk a journey. And that's really what it is for all of us. So thank you very much for you today, for your time and attention. It was really great to spend some time with you, and I hope that what I had to share this morning has inspired you and given you some food for thought. The so what question. We've invested money in this profile. We've done something. Now what? Let's activate it. Let's make it work for you. Let's translate that time and effort into a result by creating a culture of focusing on value and contribution and mutual support. And of course, remember the E equals MC squared. The potential energy of your organization, of your team, is linked to the mastery of each individual, as well as our capacity to be the African wild dogs of collaboration and amazing communication. So thank you so much, everyone. Have a fantastic weekend, and hopefully we'll see you on our next webinar soon.